They just don't want to do it. It's easier just to jab, jab, jab. So,
Well, and funny enough, I mean, not funny, but my dog actually gets allergy reaction to swelling to the rabies vaccine. Um, and so they told me like I have to give him Benadryl before
bullshit.
and
Bullshit.
then
I'm
take
sorry.
that's how bad like but that's crazy
No,
to me.
you
Like I
need
was
to
like,
fight. You need to
yeah, and I'm
fight.
like,
They
so
can give you an exemption.
Hi there. Welcome to the Lifestyle Herbalist Podcast, where we hope to bring you a healthy dose of happiness. I'm your host, Dabney Vaccaro, clinical herbalist, health coach, lover of plants.
And I'm Sabrina Cooper, registered culinary holistic nutritionist and herbalist. Join us as we dive into the art of herbalism, mindfulness, and healthy lifestyle practices to help you achieve a happier and healthier life. Whether you're a seasoned herbalist or just starting your wellness journey, we're here to provide you with the insights, tips, and inspiration for a more balanced and joyful existence. So grab your favorite herbal tea, sit back, and let's get a healthy dose of happiness together.
Welcome back. We are so excited to have Toni Shelaske with us today. She's a podcast host, seasoned entrepreneur, and holistic pet wellness expert. She's a dynamic female founder and former owner of Healthy Pets Products, Pittsburgh's premier natural pet supply retailer. Today, Toni shares her expertise in the pet industry on her popular podcast, Toni Unleashed. Let's welcome Toni today. Hi, welcome back to the Lifestyle Herbalist Podcast. Today, we are honored to have the presence of Toni Shelaske in our studio, and she is all about pet health and raw foods. So, welcome, Toni. We're so happy to have you. I'm so interested to know what inspired you to start a business that focuses on these raw foods for pets.
Um, thank you for having me, Dabney and Sabrina. It's so great to connect with you because I think we're definitely like-minded and on the same page about everything. So, but my journey in natural pet foods really started, it was like, one of those aha moments that you can't deny. But I learned about raw feeding 27, 25 plus years ago. And I literally was walking into a grooming shop just to inquire about their services. And as I was walking in, the groomer was handing her collie a raw chicken leg. And I said to her, and I'm not shy. I said to her, "What are you doing? You can't feed your dog raw chicken. You're going to kill your dog." And she said, "This is how I feed my dogs. My dog would naturally eat this in the wild." So, modern culture has kind of created kibble, and we went into this whole conversation, and it was literally like a light bulb went on in my head, and it just made total sense to me. And she recommended a couple of books, and I immediately went out and bought the books. And the next day, almost, my I switched my dog from Purina One to 100% raw food. I didn't even transition her. Like I did it cold turkey. She never had diarrhea. She never had any type of digestive upset, and we never turned back. We just, then that's how the journey started of me becoming a raw feeder.
Wow. You know, when I was mentioning to someone recently about raw food and chicken legs and things like that to dogs, like I was always told, like, you never give a dog chicken bones because they break and can actually puncture their intestinal area.
And that happens if they're cooked. It
Oh,
doesn't happen if they're
oh,
raw.
okay. That makes more sense
makes
Yes,
because they
sense.
are brittle, right? They'd be more
Yeah.
brittle if they were cooked.
correct. Correct.
Mm.
And there's ways around, like my dogs do eat body parts, I call them for lack of a better word. Like Layla is my Great Dane, and she's one, but she eats two duck necks a day raw. So, and I'm probably going to get more into looking into backs and things for her, like frames of chickens and all that kind of stuff, because she really seems to be more of a primal eater. But there are commercial foods available that are ground formulas. So that's meat, bone, and organ already completely finely ground. Some of the companies add like 5 to 10% fruits and vegetables, usually organic. Couple of natural supplements in there like Bragg's apple cider vinegar and good stuff like that. So for people that don't want to do like the body part model, you don't have to. I mean, you literally thaw and serve. I mean, they make it easy for you. The formulas are in tiny little bites. The formulas are in 8-ounce patties, 2-ounce patties. All the companies do some different things, but it's not hard. It's not and their bodies just do so much better on it. It's amazing.
So before we get into like size, mounts, things like that for people, just in case they want to get started, which we'll touch upon, how do you approach people that are kind of hesitant, or the naysayers, or let's say the critics, like you're not critics, I would say call yourself a
Yeah.
critic at the beginning, when they're like judgment about raw food, especially what you're doing, and the risks that potentially could come from it, or if any, if they are like, oh my gosh, the
Yeah.
bacteria content, or it's going to cause them gut dysbiosis, or whatever it is.
Mhm.
How do you approach that conversation?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I don't push it on people. I just encourage the more fresh food you can add to a dog's diet and cat's diet, the healthier they're going to be. So as so right now, and even changing their kibble, like changing your kibble from Hill Science Diet or Beneful, Kibbles and Bits, some of the Purinas to a better kibble is also something I'll go into with people that are hesitant about the raw food. And then, reducing that kibble load at least by 20% because kibble is so highly processed that if we reduce that kibble load, we reduce the inflammation load. So if you add in fresh food, even if it's canned food, dehydrated, freeze dried, there's so many options. People are usually shocked to hear me say that it's okay to feed table scraps. You just have to do it the right way. You can do fresh foods that you're cooking in your own kitchen without heavy spices or anything like that. Keep any of those scraps from plates in a separate container and then just incorporate it with the meal when you feed the kibble. That's still fresh food. And then as far as the bacteria in raw food, yes, there's bacteria in raw food. Dogs' digestive systems and cats' digestive systems are so much more acidic than ours are that they can ingest salmonella and E. coli and pass it and not get sick. I've literally seen my dogs bury bones and 2 weeks later dig them up and eat them and not be sick. So, that being said, it's still a concern. So most of the commercial foods now go through an HPP processing. And what that is high pressure pasteurization. And a lot of our human food is HPP'd as well. So if you see like the avocado or the guacamoles in the grocery store that are tightly sealed, a lot of that stuff is, or sometimes it's called cold pressure pasteurized. Like our juices are cold pressure pasteurized that you see in the Whole Foods market. A lot of the coconut waters. Now you'll notice when you turn the bottle around, you'll see cold pressure pasteurized. So that's what they do to raw food. Not all the companies do it, but a lot of the companies do it. And there are two companies that use fermentation to control the bacteria within their raw formulas. So that's next level as far as, because core raw feeders are kind of against the pasteurizing of the products.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
Did that answer your
Yeah,
question?
yeah, I answered it. It was
Yeah.
just, it's interesting you say that. And I was like going back to like you saying about that, the primal, feeding off of the land kind of thing, animals and things like that. My husband and I were just in, where were we? No, anyway, doesn't matter where we were, but we are on an island. And
Yeah.
there drew a blank. And we saw a dog that was just a wild dog on the side of the road. And as we were driving up, he was walking into the road, and we saw that there was like a roadkill. And the dog literally, we slowed down so that the dog could grab the roadkill and drag it off to the side and started eating the roadkill. I know this might be a little too graphic for our listeners, but it was interesting to see that these dogs, and we actually said what you're saying is that a lot of these dogs get adopted because they're like, they want to, people here want to save these dogs from their environment because, they're rescues or whatever. And they bring them here, and then all we do is feed them kibble.
Yep.
Right? We don't give them the diet that they're used to. So it's sort of the same what you're saying, and I think we're the same type of person. I mean, I remember you saying when we like had a meeting with you before, it was like, why would we feed our dogs something that we wouldn't, we feed ourselves healthy. Why don't we feed our dogs healthy foods and things like that? So I think it's just the awareness, and we're glad that you're here to dispel the myths and talk to us a little bit more and enlighten us about like the challenges that you might face with raw foods, or how to ensure that it's safe, that kind of thing. So yeah, you're answering our questions.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. What are some health conditions that you've seen improve with this raw diet?
Everything. There's kind of a joke in the raw feeding community that it'll cure anything but insanity. So
Mm.
no, I've seen it. It creates fresh breath, cleaner teeth. They drink less water because there's moisture in their food. So they urinate less. They poop less because there's no fillers. Their bodies are using everything they are eating and digesting. So, my Great Dane, not to be too graphic as well, but normally Great Dane poops are like, because a Great Dane would eat 8 cups of kibble a day. Imagine 8 cups.
Yeah.
So normally their poops are massive. And my dog's poop is like the size of a lab.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable. And my 40-pound cattle dog, his poop you could compare to a dachshund that's on kibble. I
Wow.
mean, it's like Tootsie Rolls.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
So their coats are shinier, their coats are softer, there's zero skin issues, there's zero scratching and itching. Their body type is more muscular and lean. Their vitality is different. They don't have weepy eyes. You know how when a human goes from processed food and cleans up their diet and starts using better cleaning products at home and goes through a whole transformation, you know how you see the difference in their eyes and their face and their just energy?
Their
Like,
vitality is higher.
yes. The same thing happens with dogs and cats. You just see it. You just see it. And they're not as spastic. Like we see so much anxiety and separation anxiety and hyperactivity in dogs and behavioral issues in dogs, so much more than we used to. And the kibble is she likes to make an appearance all the time. Um, she likes to steal the show. She just made me lose my train of thought.
For those of you, because we don't have video, Tony's Great Dane just decided she or he wants to be in the show as well.
Layla.
and the head takes up the whole screen, just so
Yes.
everybody know how big this dog is. Okay, when she said two
And
duck necks or whatever, I mean this dog probably could eat like a whole duck and be. I mean, who are we kidding?
Load in their food. Just like kids.
Mhm.
Just like kids. The more sugar we feed kids, the more hyper they're going to be, the more rambunctious, and they almost want to just jump out of their skin kind of feeling.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, one of the things that people often talk about is how expensive it is to eat well, even for people. Like, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy.
Yeah.
And my rebuttal is, well, there aren't not everything that's healthy is subsidized. Things are subsidized to make it affordable, but you have to look at, okay, why is it subsidized? Is it who's behind the backing of that? But the other thing is I challenge them is, and this is something my daughter said to me once, and I'll never forget, you're either going to pay the farmer or you're going to pay the doctor. And
Hmm.
so even though it might seemingly add more to the grocery list, like, how much money are you going to save by just staying healthy, not going to the doctor, not taking your pet to the vet, not having all of the steroids and the constant issues, and just just the quality of life? Like, what's that worth?
I know. I know. And I say the same thing. You're either going to pay the vet
Right.
or you're going to put the money into the food. Um,
Hmm.
and every dollar, I also say, is a vote. So do you want to vote for the farmer or do you want to vote for the pharmaceutical company?
Oh, I like that too.
That's good.
So, and a lot of dogs are on medication. There's one in particular called Apoquel, and it's for allergies and itching because these dogs just itch constantly. And Apoquel is $1 a day
Wow.
Wow.
for the average size. So that's a lot of money.
It is.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
So if you put that into food, then you're just going to have a healthier animal and you're going to spend less money at the vet. A lot of veterinary practices are corporately owned too. So the corporately owned ones, it's actually most of them almost, there's an agenda behind it. You know what I mean? They're not uh, vets. The ones that are corporately owned, they have quotas they have to meet. They have quotas on how many prescriptions they write, how much prescription food they're selling. And, they're trying to increase that well check from 1 year to 6 months. And
Wow.
I go to the vet like every 3 years just for blood work.
Hmm.
That's amazing. That was one
There's
of the
something
questions.
wrong.
Yeah, like it was a question that, how do you deal with the pushback from veterinarians? Like I just actually went in for my dog's checkup and it was the whole discussion about rabies, in fact, all that kind of stuff. And I was like, well, does he have to have it? Well, no, but then he has to get a titer and they have to send the titer and da da da. And they make it so difficult that you
They
almost
do.
have to cave into it because then I also face like the licensing of my dog. And then they're like, well, if you don't have rabies, then you're going to get a fine because you're not paying for the license. And I'm like, but they're like, well, it's only a $25 donation. But I'm like, I know, but if I don't want to do that to my dog, then why should I have to do it? I mean, I have a prime story when my dog was 18, they were making me give him his rabies. He doesn't go anywhere. He doesn't leave the house. He's like pretty much on his last leg, like, and I had to spend the money for a vet fee and and I didn't want to do it, and I should have stood ground, but
That's
he's
the
pushed
thing.
into
It's
the situation, right? And
Yeah.
yeah. And the tick medication and this medication ends up being like $500 when I could have put $500 into food, but then it's like
Yeah.
you're forced when there's like the law, I guess, whatever, you know what I mean? I put it in quotations, everyone, but it's hard. So how do we navigate that? If I was I want to now switch my dog to raw food and go in that direction. What are, how can I do, or what would you suggest?
Well, if you want the support of a vet, you're going to have to find a holistic vet. Most vets are not going to support you in raw food. Some will, some will use scare tactics to get you to not do it. Some will, be like, well, it's up to you because, Canada and America are, I mean, we have freedom.
Right.
So we can choose to feed ourselves however we want. We should be able to choose to feed our dogs and cats whatever we want. So unless you have a holistic vet near you, you're on your own, but you don't need them. This is not rocket science. This is something that is natural to them. There's websites, there's books. I'm happy to help. Happy to help. And a lot of times people get the support from independent pet stores. So even if you have a small independent pet store that sells raw food near you, they can totally help and would be happy to help you. So
So they would be have like those books that you have, do they offer information? Because maybe we can share them on our on the show
yeah.
notes, but on how much to feed certain size dogs, like weight category, et cetera, so that
Yeah,
we
and if I
more
mean if
feeding.
you do a commercial one, they are all those feeding guidelines are on the bags just like kibble.
Okay,
So, and the best rule of thumb is 2% of body weight. So
2%.
Layla weighs almost 100 pounds, but she's only a year old. So my goal for her and her activity level, um, is I try to get 3 pounds of raw food in her a day.
Wow.
And she gets raw goat's milk. And raw goat's milk is about 25 calories an ounce. So I give her a good 4 ounces twice a day.
I'm curious, why milk?
So I'm a big proponent of raw milk. I love the Solutions brand and the Answers brand, or if you have a local farmer that you can get raw milk from. The only difference is between the Answers and the Solutions, the two brands that I sell, they're fermented. So that probiotic profile is higher. It's like mother's milk to them. So not only do they can they survive on it just alone, but they could thrive on if they were just fed raw goat's milk. It's a full nutrient profile.
Wow,
Wow.
Yep.
that's pretty
Yep.
amazing.
We use it for topical wound or the interdigital cysts or just like babies. Like my store manager in Florida, she just had a baby and the baby had a little bit of a eye infection. She put breast milk on it.
Oh yeah.
Totally,
Hmm.
I mean, we just have to get back to the way we know how to do things. We are so manipulated by marketing. We have no idea. We don't, we just we
Well,
have no
it's become the new normal.
yeah.
People don't know
Yeah.
how to forage. We have gotten so far away from the
Yeah.
holistic practices that, you know, that was created for us for our use.
Yeah.
Um, we've been sold a bill of goods that is not necessarily um, helping us in our health journey. It's actually keeping us dependent on
Yep.
going to doctor to refill our prescriptions, and then we have the cascade of issues that come with prescription use. And when you were talking about this dog, the medication for this pet that you know for allergies, like it's going to have other side effects, and so
Mhm.
you know it's probably going to lessen the lifeline of the pet because of these issues, because everything has to be synthesized through the liver.
Yep.
Dogs in raw form, I mean, they weren't designed to take pharmaceutical drugs. I
Yeah.
mean, we weren't designed to take pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah. And Apoquel has been linked to cancer. And it's labeled as for intermittent use and it's used long term. I see it used in puppies. It makes me sick. As far as choosing to titer instead of doing vaccines, the the vets make it difficult. It's not difficult. I can send you the paperwork that they can get set up with Kansas State University in 5 minutes, and it's $50.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
They just don't want to do it. It's easier just to jab, jab, jab. So,
Well, and funny enough, I mean, not funny, but my dog actually gets allergy reaction to swelling to the rabies vaccine. Um, and so they told me like I have to give him Benadryl before
bullshit.
and
Bullshit.
then
I'm
take
sorry.
that's how bad, like, but that's crazy
No,
to me.
you
Like I
need to
was like,
fight. You need to
yeah, and I'm
fight.
like,
They
so,
can give you an exemption.
and then the license place was like, well, if you haven't got it to us, maybe you're, so I was like, I'm just going to tell them that my dog just moved away and he doesn't live in the area anymore. And then I'll be like set free from that too. So,
Yes.
it's I feel like it's a sign, and I know I mentioned to you before, even my other dog with pancreatic cancer, it wasn't a raw food diet, but I was doing cooked food for him,
Uh-huh.
meats and whatever. He was little, 8 pound guy, but he's thrived. Like he thrives on this. This dog eats vegetables. Like he has carrots. He has, a lot more fruit. I haven't done the raw, but I incorporate that into his diet. And people think it's crazy that my dog loves vegetables. Like they just think it's the funniest thing. And I'm like, yeah, he just because I'm chopping things fly, he picks it up. He doesn't. Nothing goes wrong with him. He doesn't have, an
Hmm.
issue. So
Hmm.
thriving. He loves it as his treat. So, yeah, I think there is something to be said that we need to get back to basics. Like you both
Yeah.
were saying, I was agreeing and nodding my head because we're getting too far away from
Yeah.
what it should be,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And giving a dog a vaccine that they know is going to have an adverse reaction to me is malpractice.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's just
Yeah.
that's I mean, that's just and to give you an example, as far as titers go, Meg, my one of my prior dogs, she had her boosters at 1 year, and then I titered her the rest of the time. She never needed vaccinated, and she lived till she was 15. That's how much we're over vaccinating. And Layla, she's also passing, but even her rabies vaccine, I didn't do her booster at 1 year. She, I did her titer on her rabies, and she is right on the line of passing. Now, keep in mind that every dog gets a Great Dane size of a rabies vaccine. Did you know that?
Oh my
Oh, I
stars.
didn't know.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
That's
And
crazy.
there's a vet in Connecticut. He's the one that's pro titers. He was actually arrested and put on trial for giving partial doses of vaccines to smaller dogs.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. This has to stop. We're killing man's best friend. We're
Hmm.
killing them. Over 50% are dying of cancer, and that's what's diagnosed.
Oh yeah.
Every dog of mine, and I've been a raw feeder for over 25 years. I don't vaccinate and I don't use chemical flea and tick and I don't use Heartgard. Every dog of mine has died of cancer. I get longevity, but they're all dying of cancer.
Wow. Why do you think that is?
You got me. You got me on that one. I can't, I can only control so much of the environment, I guess. Is it in their lineage already?
Hmm.
Even though most of my dogs are shelter dogs,
Hmm.
is it in there, I don't know. I mean,
Well, right. We live in a very toxic environment. I mean, even the air, the water, what's on the ground, glyphosate, like it's everywhere. We
that's it.
live
Everywhere.
in a toxic environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
even doing the best of things, I mean, just think about how bad it would be if you weren't doing the best of things. I mean,
Right.
we can only do what we can do.
Hmm.
Well, it's
Yeah.
water even. Like it's like drink water, but what's in our water?
Yeah.
Like we're told to drink water, but then we don't know, and
Yeah.
that also is crazy. I was even saying to my husband the other day, I was like, a lot of people are coffee drinkers. I'm like, but then the beans probably have like pesticide, and then they're heating up the beans, and then they're grinding them, and then the water. So there's there's like a double dose of stuff that they're ingesting, and it's toxic, and you know what I mean? So I was like, if you really go down to it, and my dad even gets mad. Like he's like, why do you take your dog? But this was when I had first dog. He's like, why did you take the dog to the vet and this and this and this? He's like, you're spending money. He's like, we used to have a dog. We just let it run in the field. It would eat whatever. It'd be fine. It lasted whatever, and it died when it died. That's just life. You know what I mean? Like he's like,
Yes.
that's the
And your
longevity. Take
dad's
a dog to
right.
the vet. It might only have 5 years anyway. So why are you? And then they go and do surgery and you do this and you do that. He's like, it's he's like, let the dogs live. Like that's their
Yes.
life, you don't.
Yes.
True.
Your dad's right. And so if my parents were alive today, they'd be almost 100 or 100. And when I told them I was found out about this raw food and I was going to start feeding raw food and then do the stores it didn't faze them. It did not faze them one bit. they were like, well, yeah, that's
Right.
what a dog would eat.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Wow. Well,
Yeah.
Yep.
I want to talk a little bit about the flea and tick,
Sure.
because we are coming up to spring and then summer, and then this is when we're kind of feeling like, oh, I gotta start treating my pet for flea and tick because it's the season. How do we navigate that?
So this is another tough one that is, I feel, a personal journey, because so many people are terrified of Lyme disease, and as they should be. I have Lyme disease, so I know what it feels like. Um, but the core, the healthier we are at our core, the more we can manage any disease that we end up getting, bacteria, whatever. So, the oral flea and ticks, you are feeding herbicides and insecticides, right? So then there's the topicals. The topicals you put between the shoulder blades, and that spreads throughout the skin. The skin is our biggest organ, right?
Yes.
Um, so there are a lot of natural options. You have to stay on top of it. And you have to use more than one modality if you go natural. So, Layla, come here. So one of the things that I do is, of course, she's not going to come when I want her to come. Um, I have on my dog's collars it's called a tickless tag, and it emits an ultrasonic wave that repels bugs.
Oh, nice.
So it's not 100% and doesn't claim to be 100%. So using something like that, using an internal like garlic, and garlic is not toxic for dogs. Garlic is only toxic if fed in a massive amount at one time. So that garlic gets in their bloodstream. It boosts their immune system just like it does for us, and it helps them to emit an odor that we can't smell, but bugs can smell, and helps to naturally repel bugs. There's also powders you can add to food. There's a couple herbal ones that I really like. And then use an herbal spray or an herbal collar. And then you always should have a flea comb and a tick comb and things that are designed to, like, I love the tick key and the tick twister. You should have one of each, depending on where. I mean, I'll be honest, my dogs get ticks. So,
Yeah.
They're getting bad too, and they're getting worse.
yeah.
My
That's,
dogs had never experienced ticks, and last year it was like this one had a couple ticks, and I had like they didn't penetrate, but they were on his fur, and then
yeah,
I noticed them because we're always massaging him and rubbing him, and they were like, "Oh, what is that?" So, we got to just be more mindful.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's a tough one because that's where especially I think people go, oh, it's just easy. I'll just give them the pill and then I'm done with
Right,
it.
right.
That's I think a lot of ways that the veterinarians get us that way too, right?
Mhm,
Like it's just like, oh, just give them the dose and
mhm.
you'll be on your way.
Yep. Next guard, here you go.
Exactly.
So it's
Right.
easy for them and easy money for them. I hate to say it. I'm not saying they're unethical people, but
No, but
it's the system.
Right. It's how they were trained. It's the same thing with
doctors,
our primary care doctors. Like they are taught to write prescriptions. They're not taught to get to the root of the problems. We only manage symptoms. And
Right.
that's, it's not their fault. It's just how our system is set up and how the education is. Um,
it's
Sadly, it's just where we are.
and it's interesting because I'm in
That's
one
it.
area and we had 5 girls at the office. There's 3 different vets.
Yeah.
All 3 of us went for a took our dogs to check up. All 5 of us, like all 5 of us have had the same like different vets tell us that your dog may have heart murmur, a heart murmur. You'll have to send
Oh,
them for x-ray, you'll have to send them here, it'll cost you this amount of money, or you could just let it and we can just monitor it, like all of us. And we were like, is that like
yeah.
just as they get to a certain age, the vets are all like, okay, this is what you're
Mhm.
gonna get. Like your dog
Mhm.
may have this, and I'm like, my dog lived till like 18. He had a heart murmur. He was totally fine. So I was like,
Totally.
I think we're okay. We'll just
If it's
monitor
above,
it.
right. If it's 1 to 3, they're fine. If it's
Yeah,
above 3, then we need to think about
worry about it.
monitoring it and
Exactly.
doing
But
something about it. But they were all on a hard kick
yeah, so it's
because of
interesting.
the explosion of DCM. And
Right.
that was all propaganda to fight against grain-free foods versus grain-inclusive foods. So, but that's a whole other.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like getting to the root of things, and we don't have that. And so I think you're right, finding a holistic vet, working with them. I've gone to one, and they're great, and they're really patient, and they explain everything, and they sit with your dog. Well, this one sat with our dog, played with our
Yeah.
dog, got to know our dog before they actually did anything, and was just like, let me analyze. You don't have to tell me anything, and I'll tell you what I think. And I was like, okay, you know. So it was interesting without having a pre-notion of, oh, my dog is itchy or my dog is that. He kind of like did his whole assessment. So I really encourage people to go out there and speak to a holistic vet or try to find one.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not very many, but
No.
I don't think I have any in my area at all. I don't, not that I'm aware of.
yeah.
A little side note, Tony, I'd love to get your take on this. This week I had a patient, got my dental hygienist. So I had a patient in my chair who works for the government as as an independent contractor, and his company. We were talking about, well, I was just talking about like what has he been up to, like how's work going, and he let me know that there's this push, or what they're doing right now is the planes. They're sending pilots over states between like Maine and Florida, and they're dropping these little packets that smell like fish that has rabies vaccine
Hmm.
medicine in it, so that when the animal bites it, they get rabies. Because what they're trying to do is stop rabies from getting to
Hmm.
the West Coast.
It's the rabies vaccine. My dog has eaten, they do it in our woods around here.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Pennsylvania. Yeah. And my dog's actually gotten one of them. And so, yeah. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And they always say, well, rabies is for the rabies vaccines we're protecting against humans. So, when was the last time you saw a rabid animal? Like, how often do you see wild animals anymore, period? With
Right.
all
Well, and they normally, I mean, rabies
things.
takes them out. Like they die. That's their cause. They die.
Yeah.
And they doesn't, and it goes fairly quickly. Like I don't think they are rabid for, months that they're going out and like, biting everything. I think, it takes them out pretty quickly.
Yeah. They just use fear tactics. Same, just like the heart guard. So, when you go into the exam room at the vet and they have that cross section of the heart, have you
Yes.
ever seen that with all the wiggly worms in
Yes.
it?
Yes.
That is the advanced case.
Hmm.
So, because I don't do heartworm prevention either, there actually is an herbal one that I can get you the link to if you want to share it with
That'd be
your
great.
listeners. But you, unless you live in Florida or Texas where it's highly prevalent, you really don't need to do it. And you would notice the type of pet owners that are listening to your podcast, us, you would notice the signs of heartworm in your dog quickly enough to get them to the vet and get them treated. The prevention heart guard is not a prevention. It is actually the treatment in a low dose.
Hmm.
So they're treating before they actually get it.
Hmm. Yep.
Hmm.
Yep.
Interesting.
Interesting. You
Yep.
are very well versed
I
in.
know you are. I was going to say, if
Yeah.
you could change one thing about the way people approach pet health today, what would it be?
I would encourage, oh boy, a fresh food. So the more fresh food to reduce the kibble load as much as they can,
Right.
because at the core, our core diet is number one, right? In humans too. So
Absolutely.
that would be the top of my list is food.
So
Okay.
is there a way that people could ease into this, or should they just go
Sure.
all or nothing?
Absolutely. Like I'm extreme. But yeah, you can tell, but just by talking to me, right? Um, that's me. I cold turkeyed from kibble to raw. I was like, no, done. Um, a lot of times I transition people just on kibble. So if you're feeding Beneful or Kibbles and Bits or Pure, I'm not a fan of Purina, or especially not Hill's Science Diet or Royal Canin. I actually just read, I had a customer bring in a brand new customer bring in prescription food from Royal Canin. The first ingredient, are you ready for this? Cornstarch. The
Oh,
first ingredient.
wow.
Wow.
Just a filler.
It's the filler
Yep.
and the whole thing.
Yep.
Wow.
And then it was followed up with hydrolyzed chicken byproduct aggregate
I don't even
and
know.
then powdered
Um,
cellulose, which is basically sawdust.
Yeah.
And then a whole slew of synthetic supplements. Disgusting. And it's an $80 bag for 15 pounds. $80 bag for 15 pounds.
It's
You talk
supposed to be a
about where people are
prescription.
spending their money. So, so I went off on a tangent. What was I talking about?
So
Well,
what
we were
food?
just talking about how to
Other
start
food.
little, like
Oh,
start little and, you know,
yeah. So transition to a better kibble. And that's usually pretty easy. 25% new kibble, 75% old. You do that for a few days. If poop's normal, then you go 50-50. Then you go 75-25. And I have done this and counseled tens of thousands of people over the past 16 years. And I see it. I see the journey. Like they transition the kibble and they do notice a change.
yeah.
And then as they shop and talk and are in the stores and or talk to customers, like because a lot of times customers talk to customers in my stores. Um, then they want to try the goat's milk because yes, they saw these changes in their dog, but the dog's still scratching a little bit. So then they add in the goat's milk a little bit, which reduces the kibble. You know what I mean? So it's just this whole journey, and I just highly encourage, giving it a try because it makes a huge difference.
Tony, it's been so nice to have you today because, uh, we talked about the biases. People listen to their doctors, people listen to their vets. And, as a mom and as a pet owner, like you want to do the right things for
Mhm.
the ones that you're caring for, right? And so we give so much credence to what these doctors and veterinarians know. And I don't want to take away from that because they are highly trained. But
Yes.
You need
we've
them.
gotten away from our own gut. Like we know instinctively, like things that don't look right, things that don't feel right. Like, this doesn't seem the right way. But
Yeah.
yet we kind of ignore those gut instincts and we do what the doctors tell us because we see them as the professional, they know, and we give them the power to make the choices. And
Yep.
I'm so glad that you're here to debunk some of these things so that our listeners and our pet owners can make better choices for their pets and not have all of the guilt, I would say, of, not doing because, you live with a little bit of that guilt. Like, I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. Like, what happens if they get sick? And, then that way it's not my fault. Like, sometimes I think we don't want to be blamed if something goes wrong, right? It's the vet's fault or it's the doctor's fault. They gave me the wrong medicine, you know?
Yep. And you have to question everything. And we have to start thinking for ourselves more. We really do.
Yeah. Well,
So,
This is
yeah.
really
So,
informative. I'm sure our listeners will get a lot out of this conversation and look forward to linking them up with you if they have any questions or, they want to find out more about the food that, that you have, the foods that you provide, and any other information.
yeah, yeah, I'm happy to help. I'm not quite there yet, but I will be most likely doing consulting for people as well. But I know people that already do it if they really want coached through
Awesome.
the process. But my last dying breath will be about how important it is to feed our pets better food, vaccinate less, do less, reduce that chemical load, period. My last dying breath will be that. I guarantee it.
Well, Tony, it's nice to know that you do consulting and some coaching to help pet owners kind of get started, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions emerging after the airing of this. And so we will have your contact information in our show notes. And you also have a store, right? You have a store in Florida that's currently open, and you started a chain of stores in Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah.
And they're
Yeah.
still active and going, correct?
Yeah, I just sold my 3 Pittsburgh stores. I'd owned them for 16 years, and I approached another locally owned pet food store company that was like-minded, and asked them if they would be interested in buying, and they were. So, and they're 15 years younger than me. So, they purchased my stores, and they basically have all the same brands. They have a lot of better kibble, raw food, great options. So that's within Pittsburgh. And then I do still have my Port Charlotte, Florida store. And I also highly encourage you to, wherever you are, to look for an independently owned pet food store, because we all speak the same language.
Awesome. Great advice.
Great. So if you're in the Pittsburgh area or in the Port Charles area, make sure you check out Tony's brainchild. Yeah.
And my
So,
podcast is a great help for people that really want to learn more. It's all about what I just talked about.
and
And
we'll have that link also in the show notes. So yeah,
thank you.
yeah. Thanks, Tony, so much.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.